So I just spent the last 5 minutes with the camera recording, just sitting here in silence, and some part of me just said, I should just post that. That's enough. Sitting in silence is amazing. And the sense of completion, what it feels like to just sit. It's a downfall when I'm sitting trying to make a video, because sometimes I'll have insights and go, aha, I need to share this, and then sit and press record and just lose everything, just have it be completely gone. So that's been the challenge through this entire channel so far, is going blank. Maybe I'll post a video of just sitting, see what the response is on that. So I just got back from a retreat, a very different retreat, something that I wasn't accustomed to. It was a 2-day intensive, and it was of the devotional nature, where Shaktipat was there. And I'm going to make a whole video about that. I think a really, really, really intense retreat. While I was in the middle of it, I would say I hated it. It was triggering. But by the second day, there were things that were really starting to show up. So I wanted to relate this to us trauma folks, which now it's still very, very strange to say that word a lot in these videos, and it doesn't feel like it's something that's relevant here anymore, but it feels like it's really important to share about. I wanted to hear, when I was struggling, what it was like, and what insights showed up, or what pieces of the identity fell off when trauma was activated, and then eventually dropped and felt and seen through. So that's been my primary sense of sharing on this. I don't know that it'll go this way forever, but I'd like to complete the series. So on day 2, I couldn't stay inside the meditation hall anymore. I just felt like I was vibrating and needed to go outside. And just walking around in circles, shaking my hands, and just feeling like I was just on fire, just feeling like I was just burning. And this notion of how we behave in trauma that we can take into our awakening, or even just a regular identity structure. I think they just have different levels of severity on how they show up. The insight here was, I've spent my entire life either apologizing for or justifying my own fucking existence. And what do I mean by that? That comes from a feeling of either trying to prove myself, trying to reinforce the sense of identity in a really, really, really challenging society, or a massive blanket that's just not, that feels just like not good enough. Please validate me. So when you're apologizing for your existence, it can look like, for me, it looked like, I'm sorry, I don't want to inconvenience you. Let me throw away my boundaries. Let me do something for you so that I'm not in your way. Let me just be less of an inconvenience here, because you inherently, you as the person I'm responding to, or the situation I'm responding to, you inherently, from the broken perspective here, feel like you have more value and more worth. You literally deserve to be here more. In justifying my existence, it was performative in nature. Look at me. Look at what I can do. Look at what I have. Look at my skill sets. I have value. I have meaning. Whether I'm performing in a workplace, or trying to do the world's best tattoo, or whether I want to show that I have the best skill set, none of it was coming from a place of wholeness. None of it was coming from a place of resting, from a place of peace, from a place of pure being, from a place of existence. It was coming from the deepest sense of lack that had been instilled in me since I was old enough to remember. And all of this showed up really, really fiercely. And it made sense that I have been extremely rebellious. Even through this awakening process, I have rejected teachers, I've rejected teachings, I've rejected other people's realizations, I've rejected advice. That didn't come on till much later when I started to just almost subconsciously see into what it was like to have to apologize constantly for simply existing, for simply being here. And then it came on, at least here, based on my personality growing up in violent and aggressive situations, where it came up in a real extreme defiance, this crazy pushback of like, fuck you, this doesn't feel right. And underneath that, whenever I found myself apologizing or trying to justify, there was something there that never really felt very good. And it was constant, and it was this underlying sense. And I don't know how to describe it, but it had a feeling in the body. It had an energetic feeling. It felt like everything would collapse around me. And this neediness, like this little hand almost reaching out from like the center of the torso. Please give me. Please give me. So that defiance was very, very strong. And here it was necessary. Here, the awakening process, if you want to call it that, has been some type of rebellion, has definitely been a throwing away of everything. I wasn't able to do that in the beginning, but at some point it became very, very clear that I needed to chuck all of that, everything I'd learned, all the teachers I either admired, respected, revered, hated, all the teachings, and all the concepts, and I needed to step out on my own. And that was terrifying, but felt so necessary. And even while it was terrifying, it felt like, yes, this is the direction. And stepping out on my own, what that really means, it sounds very independent or individual in nature, but what it is it's no longer looking to someone else, or I don't know, logging onto a YouTube video to get that little hit, just that little hit of, I need to feel a little bit better. Let me get some relief from this. It was very fierce and very strong and very, okay, what is here without any of the concepts that I'm applying to it? What is here without any of the need? What is here right now, right this second? And that became like a body scan. If I watched the attention move around into the apparent external world, I watched it move in here to the internal landscape where thoughts and emotions manifest as sensations in the body. I watched it as I examined what structures I had created around awakening, or earlier around trauma and around my life. And it was scary. It was a little bit scary, because that felt like, if I didn't stay focused on a non-dual teaching, or if I didn't stay focused on what another teacher had said, or a method or a practice, that I might be lost entirely. That all of my so-called progress would simply go away. Feels counterintuitive, because we're relearning how to function to a degree. And with trauma, we're unraveling those old patterns, and new patterns do have to set in. I don't know that we can necessarily always just take the leap into just nothing, into just void, into just emptiness, into just this, into just here. It's like there's the old structure, and then sort of a new, healthier structure gets created loosely, or at least we find new things to try and to experiment, which is fine. It actually seems to be pretty necessary for most of us. But then it's move out of those altogether. And what struck me as I was sitting outside in tears, seeing the depth of how far this had sat in me, how far this need to apologize for my existence had sat and had gone way deeper than I had ever known. That I noticed my breath, that I noticed there was this tremendous sense of presence there, that there was this heightened sense of being, and that it was complete. And it just felt like, who am I apologizing to? Who am I performing for? What about this isn't complete? What about this isn't good enough? What about this isn't whole? Where are the people, the so-called people that I am performing for? Just appearances. Just appearances. And this continued for a while of just walking in circles, letting this stuff unravel, letting this stuff unfold until it became so crystal clear that almost everything we do, especially with trauma, is attempting to validate our very existence. When the only thing that I noticed in those moments was just breathing in and out. And that was enough. Anything beyond that, anything beyond the sense of simply here, this here-ness, this presence, this now-ness, was extra. It was an add-on. But it was not necessary to validate or justify the sense of here. And that, in and of itself, continues to show and demonstrated yet another identity structure that fell off. Some people have talked about awakening or this process as, or maybe we can, when we listen to videos, we can assume that just the person falls off, right? It's just like it's in one fell swoop, boom, there's identification, there's identity, and then the next, or within a very short period of time, it all collapses. Perhaps that is so for some folks. My experience and talking with other people and sharing with other people is that the deeper our identification is, the more severe and violent our identification is, i.e. trauma or having very extreme experiences happen, is that doesn't necessarily come all at once. And this identity, though, can be eroded, can be chipped at, can be dissolved, and even can be burned up. And there's no set formula for it. But every time we sit down into meditation, we're softening it, if that's your thing. Every time we do inquiry, it's dissolving. Every time we sit in satsang, in presence, or in Shaktipat, which is this is my first experience with it, is the blessing from a guru. And please understand that's not necessarily my model. So I was skeptical when I went there, nor will I adopt it as a model, but the sense and the feeling there was palpable. And it was a burning. It was an absolute burning. And it felt like parts of me were being burned up, parts that I don't know that I necessarily had access to. And we're moving into a meditation or inquiry, and it feels frustrating. I can say, although meditation itself, or inquiry itself, or sitting in presence itself is not the guaranteed formula to have an awakening or a shift. It does have a massive benefit and has a cumulative effect. At least that's what it seemed like here. The identity can only stand for so long. The identity can only hold up under scrutiny for so long. It cannot withstand direct pressure for forever. How that unfolds, what the vehicle is, what the methods are, I'm sure are just as varied as there are people on the planet. But the identity can't last, can never last. Not under me repeating it myself. So I will make more videos about how this unfolded and what happened. And the next one I'm going to share is what it's like to have the trauma structure, and sort of a map, at least to create something to orient to if you're unpacking a lot of stuff or if there's shadow work. It's not an exact map. It's just a loose model. The map doesn't necessarily come with specific methods, but I felt like I had only seen the map after the fact, and perhaps had I been able to see what was happening a little bit more clearly than being in this just massive fiery chaos of, wow, I don't know what the fuck is happening, as the trauma structures and the identities and the stuff that's stored energetically in the body were being dissolved, that it might have been a little easier. So thanks for listening on this one, and I will make the next one on that map here very soon. Be blessed.